I always thought I knew my husband, the way his lips curled into a sleepy smile in the morning, the exact rhythm of his laughter, the way his fingers absent-mindedly tapped against the kitchen counter when he was deep in thought. I had memorized every part of Kieran, every habit, every subtle shift in his mood. So why did I feel like I was looking at a stranger when he told me he needed a break? But let me back up for a second. My name is Serafina Vaughn, but everyone calls me Sarah. I'm 32 years old, and for the past 6 years, I've been married to the man I thought was my soulmate. Kieran Vaughn, 35, charming, hardworking, the kind of man who could walk into a room and have everyone hanging on to his every word. He wasn't just my husband, he was my best friend, my safe place, the one person in this world I believed would never betray me. Or at least, that's what I used to think. It started on a Thursday night, the kind of night that smelled like takeout and rumbled with distant thunder outside our apartment windows. I had just set our plates down on the table when Kieran cleared his throat. I've been thinking, he said, avoiding my gaze, his fingers tracing the rim of his glass. I need some time to myself. A nervous chuckle bubbled out of me before I could stop it. Time to yourself? What does that mean? His jaw tightened. Just a little break, a trip, Paris. My stomach twisted. Paris? He nodded quickly like he wanted to rush past this part. Yeah, I found a great deal on flights. Thought it'd be good for me to clear my head. Something about the way he said it, like he was forcing the words to sound casual, made my skin prickle. My mind raced, trying to piece together why my husband, the man who used to text me every hour when we were apart, suddenly wanted to fly across the world alone. I forced a smile, though I could feel the tightness in my chest. Well, that's unexpected. When were you planning on telling me? His fingers drummed against the glass again. I just did. A cold weight settled in my stomach. I searched his face for something, anything that would make this make sense. His green eyes, the ones that used to hold so much warmth, seemed distant, not cold but guarded. Like he was afraid if he let me look too closely, I'd see something he didn't want me to see. I tried to shake it off. Maybe he really did need space. Maybe this wasn't about me. So I smiled, I nodded, I pretended the weight in my chest wasn't crushing me. Okay, I whispered, if that's what you need. Kieran's shoulders loosened, relief flickered across his face, and for some reason, that hurt more than anything. Like he was grateful I hadn't asked too many questions. The rest of the night passed in a blur of forced small talk and half-eaten food. I laughed when I was supposed to, nodded at all the right moments. But inside, my mind was spinning. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of the shower running. Kieran's suitcase was already half-packed, sitting by the closet. I stared at it for a long moment, my heart thudding against my ribs. Something wasn't right. I walked over, my fingers grazing the zipper. It was packed too neatly. Kieran was never this organized when we traveled together. Clothes folded precisely, passport tucked perfectly in the front pocket. This wasn't spontaneous, this was planned. I swallowed hard, my throat dry as I sat on the bed. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, a confirmation email from the airline. My pulse quickened as I opened it. I wasn't even sure why I was looking, why I suddenly needed to see it for myself. Passenger, Kieran Vaughn. I exhaled, and then, passenger, Lilith Mercer. The breath I had just taken punched out of my lungs. My fingers tightened around my phone, the screen blurring as my vision swam. Lilith Mercer. A name I didn't know, a name I shouldn't have seen on my husband's solo trip itinerary. The shower turned off. My body jolted at the sound, my hands trembling as I set my phone down. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure Kieran could hear it from the bathroom. I had two choices. Pretend I hadn't seen it, keep smiling, let him leave, or find out the truth. The room felt suddenly too small, the walls closing in around me as I stared at my phone screen. Lilith Mercer. The name glared back at me, the stark black letters cutting through the bright white of the email confirmation. My stomach lurched, a slow, rolling sickness that spread through my entire body. I blinked, hoping I had misread it. Maybe it was some kind of glitch? Maybe there was an explanation? But no matter how many times I read it, the words didn't change. 2 passengers. One of them was my husband, the other a woman I had never heard of. I could barely hear the sound of the shower running anymore. My pulse roared in my ears, each beat thudding like a warning drum. My hands trembled as I locked my phone, but the moment I set it down, I felt the overwhelming urge to pick it back up, just to make sure I hadn't imagined it. I checked the email again, still there. Breathe, Sarah. I forced air into my lungs, but it wasn't enough. My chest felt tight, like an invisible rope was cinching around my ribs. I swallowed hard, forcing down the bile that crept up my throat. Who the hell was Lilith Mercer? The water shut off in the bathroom, and panic seized my body like a vice. My eyes darted around the room, searching for something. Anything that would make me look normal, like I hadn't just uncovered my husband's secret. I grabbed the nearest thing, one of Kieran's t-shirts from the laundry basket, and folded it frantically, my fingers moving too fast, too stiffly. My heart hammered so loudly I was sure he'd hear it through the door. The bathroom handle turned. I froze, hands gripping the fabric so tightly my knuckles went white. Kieran stepped out, a towel wrapped around his waist, steam curling around his shoulders. He ran a hand through his damp hair, barely sparing me a glance. "You're up early," he muttered, walking over to the dresser. I forced a smile, hoping it didn't look as unnatural as it felt. "Yeah, couldn't sleep." He didn't look at me. Instead, he dug through his drawer, pulling out a fresh shirt. "Maybe you should take a nap later," he said absently. A nap, right. Because that would magically erase the fact that my husband was flying to Paris with another woman. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hurl my phone at his face and demand answers. I wanted to rip open his suitcase and see if there were any other clues waiting to slap me in the face. Instead, I sat there, fingers clenched around his t-shirt, pretending everything was fine. "Kieran?" My voice came out shakier than I wanted. He finally turned, his brows furrowing. "Yeah?" I forced myself to meet his eyes, searching for something. Guilt, hesitation, even a flicker of recognition when I said her name. "Who's Lilith Mercer?" For a split second I saw it. A flicker, a crack in the mask. His lips parted slightly, his shoulders tensing just enough that I caught it. But then, just as quickly, it was gone. His expression smoothed into something neutral, something practiced. "What?" I lifted my phone, holding it up like a piece of evidence in a courtroom. "Your flight confirmation. It says you're not going alone." Silence. Kieran's eyes darted away just for a second, but it was enough. My stomach twisted. "She's a co-worker," he said finally, too casual. "She's on the same flight for work stuff. It's just a coincidence." A coincidence? I let the words sit between us, let them echo in my mind. He was lying. I could hear it in the forced ease of his voice, see it in the way he shifted his weight slightly, his fingers clenching at the hem of his towel. I let out a breath, nodding slowly, like I believed him. But inside, something inside me cracked wide open. I wasn't going to let this go. I needed proof. I needed the truth. And I was going to get it. The moment Kieran left the bedroom, I felt like I could finally breathe. But it wasn't a deep breath. It was shallow, shaky, the kind that barely fills your lungs. My hand still trembled as I clutched my phone, my mind replaying the last few minutes on a relentless loop. She's just a co-worker. It's a coincidence. Lies. I knew it the second he avoided my eyes, the way his jaw tightened just before he spoke. Kieran was never a good liar, not to me. I had spent 6 years learning his every tell, and that moment, that was pure, unfiltered guilt. I sat on the edge of our bed, staring down at his suitcase. The air in the room felt thick, like it was pressing down on me, suffocating me. My heart pounded in my chest, a slow, heavy rhythm that echoed in my ears. What if I was wrong? What if I was being paranoid? I wanted to believe that. I needed to believe that. But the evidence was right there in my hands, a name, a flight confirmation, and a gut feeling I couldn't shake. I scrolled through my phone, fingers moving faster than my brain. If Lilith Mercer was just a co-worker, why had I never heard of her before? Kieran talked about work all the time. I knew his team, his boss, the people he complained about when they left too many dishes in the break room, but not her. Never her. I typed her name into social media. My stomach clenched when I saw her profile. Public, filled with pictures of lavish dinners, expensive wine glasses clinking together under dim restaurant lighting. And then I saw it. A photo from last month. A rooftop bar, golden sunset in the background, 2 drinks on the table. Tagged, Lilith Mercer and Kieran Vaughn. My blood ran cold. I clicked the image, my fingers tightening around the phone. Kieran wasn't even looking at the camera. He was looking at her. His expression was relaxed, effortless, the kind of gaze that used to be reserved for me. A sharp pain shot through my chest, like something inside me had cracked open. I wanted to throw my phone, scream, break something, anything to drown out the sick feeling twisting inside me. Instead, I forced myself to breathe, to think. I needed more. I opened our banking app, my thumb hovering over the transactions. My hands shook as I scrolled, my eyes scanning the list. And then I saw them. March 5th, the LaRue Hotel, $437. March 12th, Serafina Restaurant, $198. March 19th, a flower shop, $72. My pulse pounded in my ears. I had never been to any of these places. My vision blurred as I stared at the screen, nausea rising in my throat. It wasn't just a coincidence. It wasn't a misunderstanding. Kieran had been seeing her, taking her to places we had never been, spending money on her, booking hotel rooms. I gripped the bedsheet beneath me, my nails digging into the fabric. Every moment I had ignored, every late night at work, every secretive glance at his phone, it all made sense now. A slow, burning anger replaced the heartbreak. I had spent years loving this man, trusting him, believing in him, and this is what I got? Number, I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to sit here while he packed his bags for a romantic getaway, while he planned a future with another woman. I inhaled sharply, standing up so fast my vision swayed. If Kieran wanted to play games, I was going to beat him at his own. I grabbed my laptop, fingers shaking as I booked a ticket. Same flight, same row, but he wouldn't see me coming. My heart was still racing as I stared at the confirmation email. 1 ticket, same flight, same row. It was reckless, maybe even insane. But I didn't care. Kieran thought he could sneak off to Paris with his little secret. He thought I would smile, wave him off, and stay home like the perfect, oblivious wife. Not this time. I closed my laptop and took a slow, deep breath. But it didn't help. My hands were still shaking. My stomach churned with a mixture of rage and anticipation. I was going to catch him. The next few days passed in a blur. Kieran acted normal, or at least as normal as someone hiding a double life could be. He was careful, keeping his distance just enough to avoid too much conversation. I watched him closely. Every move, every word, every lie. "Hey, babe," he said one evening, slipping his arms around me like everything was fine. "I'll text you when I land, okay?" I forced myself to smile, to lean into his touch, even though it made my skin crawl. Of course. Have fun. The words tasted bitter in my mouth. By the time we arrived at the airport, I had perfected my act. I kissed him goodbye, my lips barely grazing his cheek. His suitcase rolled smoothly beside him as he walked away, disappearing into the crowd without a second glance. I counted to 10, then 20. Then I grabbed my own bag and walked straight to the check-in counter. The terminal buzzed with noise, announcements overhead, the rhythmic beeping of scanning tickets, the constant murmur of voices. but all I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. I kept my head down, my hoodie pulled up just enough to shadow my face. Kieran was only a few gates ahead, but he had no idea I was right behind him. I spotted him near the boarding area, standing with his back to me. But he wasn't alone. Lilith Mercer. She was right there beside him, her dark hair cascading in perfect waves, her manicured fingers grazing his arm as she whispered something into his ear. And he laughed. Not just any laugh, that laugh. The one he used to save for me, the one that made my heart flip when we were first falling in love. Now it belonged to her. My nails dug into my palm, a slow burn spreading through my chest. I forced myself to breathe, to watch. Lilith's hand drifted down, fingers brushing his, and he didn't pull away. He didn't even hesitate. It was so natural, so effortless, like they had done this 100 times before. And I was just the fool who was finally seeing the truth. I swallowed the lump in my throat, my pulse hammering as the gate agent called for boarding. I watched as they stepped forward, handing over their tickets with matching smiles. Then it was my turn. I handed over my ticket, my fingers tightening around the strap of my bag as the agent scanned it. This was it. I was on his flight. I walked down the jet bridge, every step echoing with a mix of nerves and determination. I had no idea what I was going to do when I got to Paris, but one thing was certain. Kieran wouldn't be the only one in for a surprise. The airplane cabin hummed with quiet conversations and the occasional rustle of pages turning. The scent of coffee and faint traces of perfume lingered in the air, mixing with the sterile coolness of recycled oxygen. But I barely noticed any of it. My hands gripped the armrests so tightly that my knuckles turned white. He was right there. Kieran sat only a few rows ahead, his head tilted slightly toward her, his voice low. He laughed at something Lilith whispered, the sound hitting me like a slap. I swallowed the lump in my throat and forced myself to stay still, to act normal, to blend in. But my mind was spinning, heart racing in my chest like a trapped bird trying to escape. What was I supposed to do now? I had made it this far, booked the ticket, gotten on the plane, and followed through with my reckless plan. But now, sitting here, reality crashed into me. I was on a plane, next to my cheating husband with his mistress. The weight of it settled over me like a suffocating blanket. My breathing grew shallow, hands shaking slightly as I reached for my water bottle, taking a sip just to steady myself. It didn't help. Every second felt like an eternity, each passing moment stretching longer as I sat there, forced to watch my husband be someone else's man. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palm as I stared at the back of his head. I remembered when I used to run my fingers through his hair, when he used to lean into my touch. Now, another woman had taken my place, and he had no idea I was right here. A flight attendant passed by, offering drinks, but I barely heard her. I couldn't look away. Every time Lilith leaned in closer, every time Kieran's hand grazed hers, it sent another sharp pang through my chest. How long had this been going on? How many lies had I swallowed while he was out with her? The memories started rushing back in waves. The late-night meetings, the work trips, the unexplained purchases on our credit card. The times he came home smelling like a perfume I didn't own. I had been blind. I had trusted him, and he had used that trust to make a fool out of me. I exhaled slowly, trying to stay calm, but rage simmered just beneath the surface, threatening to bubble over. Then he turned. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. For a split second, his gaze flickered in my direction. My stomach twisted, every nerve in my body on high alert. Did he see me? But no, his eyes barely lingered. He looked past me, completely unaware of my presence, then turned back to Lilith as if I didn't exist. The realization stung more than I expected. I was nothing to him now, just another stranger in the crowd. Something in me snapped. I straightened in my seat, my jaw tightening. Number, I wasn't going to sit here and let him get away with this. He might not have seen me yet, but soon, very soon, he would. I took another deep breath, steadying myself. The flight was long, plenty of time to decide my next move. One thing was certain. By the time we landed in Paris, Kieran's perfect little secret would be exposed. The hum of the airplane engines filled the cabin, a steady, low vibration that settled deep into my bones. I had spent the last few hours locked in my own head, watching, analyzing, replaying every moment that had led up to this. Now, we were descending. Paris was just below us, stretching out like a dream beneath the morning sun. But this wasn't a dream. It was a nightmare I had walked into willingly. I tightened my grip on the armrest, my nails pressing into the smooth surface as the plane jolted slightly. The seatbelt sign dinged on, but I barely noticed. My heart was hammering against my ribs. Kieran still had no idea I was here. He was 2 rows ahead, completely oblivious, whispering to her, Lilith Mercer. Every few minutes I saw his head tilt toward her, their shoulders brushing, their quiet laughter threading through the air like a cruel melody. I had imagined this moment 100 times. Would I confront him right here, on the plane, in front of 100 strangers? Would I wait until we landed, let him walk off that plane thinking he was safe before turning his world upside down? I exhaled slowly, trying to calm the burning in my chest. Number, I needed to be smart. If I let my emotions take over, I'd lose the upper hand. As the plane touched down, my stomach flipped. This was it. No turning back. The moment we reached the gate, passengers started standing, reaching for bags, stretching after the long flight. I stayed in my seat, my pulse pounding in my ears as I watched Kieran and Lilith. She reached for his hand, and he let her. My breath hitched. 6 years of marriage, 6 years of love, of trust, of believing in him. And now he was holding someone else's hand like I had never existed. A fresh wave of anger surged through me, hot and all-consuming. My fingers curled into fists, my nails biting into my palm. He deserved to be humiliated. He deserved to feel the exact kind of pain I was feeling now. Passengers began shuffling forward, filing out row by row. Kieran and Lilith stepped ahead, their backs turned to me as they made their way down the aisle. I stood. My hands felt steady now, my breathing even. The moment had arrived. The jet bridge was cool, the air crisp against my heated skin. My suitcase rolled smoothly behind me as I followed them, close enough to strike, but far enough to stay unnoticed. They walked through the terminal, oblivious to the storm brewing just steps behind them. Then, as if the universe had planned it perfectly, Kieran slowed, adjusting his bag strap. He turned slightly, just enough for his gaze to sweep the crowd, and then he saw me. Time seemed to freeze. His body stiffened, his eyes widening, panic flickering across his face like a neon sign. His lips parted, but no words came out. I didn't look away. I didn't blink. I just smiled. The kind of smile that said, I know everything. The kind of smile that sent a chill down his spine. Lilith followed his gaze, her expression shifting from confusion to dawning horror as she looked at me. Really looked at me. The color drained from her face. Kieran's mouth finally moved, barely a whisper. Sarah. But I wasn't done yet. I tilted my head, my voice calm, almost sweet. Surprise, honey. Enjoying your solo trip? His face crumbled, and in that moment I knew I had won. Have you ever caught someone in a lie like this? Tell me in the comments. I'm ready for the tea.